Dan Schwarz. I'm the co-founder and CEO of FutureSearch. You may remember me from such talks as Manifest 2024, predicting that the Apple Siri ChatGPT thing would fall apart. Was anyone there for that talk? Well, we were right. So it's been 2 years. I think it took 9 months for that forecast to be vindicated, but ChatGPT did not ship in Siri anytime soon. So 1 out of 1, good forecasts. Okay. I'll quickly say what this talk is going to be about, then I'm going to introduce the guys up here and one guy lurking over there. It's been a couple of years. FutureSearch started in August of 2023. And the main thing we want to do today is to inform you at just how good AI forecasting has got in the intervening 2 years and what the implications of that are. So first, we're going to give some evidence from our own forecasting, the FutureSearch forecaster, mostly from trading Polymarket and Kalshi and stocks and some tournaments. Then we're going to talk about where the frontier is right now, how good Claude Fable is at forecasting, why it is that we believe that, and where we think the frontier is going. And third, we're going to talk about what the implications of all of this are. Once AI forecasting is good, which I claim it is now, what does this do for us? How does this change the world, and how are we supposed to use it? So again, I'm Dan Schwarz. We are FutureSearch. I see a lot of familiar faces. It's nice to see you guys. We very much got our start in this community, and this is still our home, so thank you so much for having us. We started in August of 2023. We're still small. There are 11 of us, 4 of whom are here and some others in the audience. I'm going to say hi, guys. We are seed funded, and we are trying to get to the next step. And with that, I'm going to kick it over to Tom Liptay. Actually, I will introduce everyone quickly. Or actually, you guys test your microphones and introduce yourselves, please.
Hello, I'm Callum. I'm a research engineer.
I'm Tom. I have no idea what my job title is. I do forecasting.
I'm Nikos. I'm also a research engineer, and I also have private interest in prediction markets and enjoy them quite a lot.
Okay, and with that, yeah, Tom, please walk us through evidence from tournaments and from trading.
Great, thanks, Dan. Yeah, so 2 years ago, I was here introducing the AI benchmarking tournament at Metaculus. And back then, AI forecasting was pretty bad. You needed to keep, you could make it okay by giving a very long prompt and giving it very specific instructions, but it was still way worse than humans. And I claim that's changed quite a bit, but I'll let you draw your own conclusions. I'm just going to walk you through some actual data. So this is a Metaculus tournament. If you click on the leaderboard, Market Pulse, you will see us and I guess 3 other bots that are doing as well or better than the community. Okay, 1 data point. So that community prediction is really hard to beat if you're a human and you've ever tried. It's the aggregate of human forecasters.
Can you guys actually read this? I can't really read it from here. You guys see community prediction? How many people here know what the Metaculus community prediction is? Most of you, okay. It's hard to beat. Tom, you can explain. We entered this one late, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, it has your score, which is generally positive if you're a good forecaster, as well as your the number of questions you answered. We entered late, but if you were to look at our average score, it's right up there with the top human, the top bot, pre-scene.
We've only been doing tournaments like this for a very short time, despite being in AI forecasting for a very long time. So we show this because it's the evidence we have, because it's from very recent. But yeah, as Tom said, there are multiple bots that are ahead of the community prediction in this tournament. I don't think there's that many humans. I don't think this is really the very top bar, but it's a $7,500 tournament, and I think this gives you a snapshot of the AIs at least competing with, if not exceeding, the humans and communities of humans.
Yep.
If you click around in Metaculus, you'll see other things. Yeah, Tom described when he was at Metaculus creating the AI benchmark tournament. I think that's still the gold standard. So you'll see other bots, including Prescene. Is Prescene here? Ah, right, there you are. Hello, nice to meet you earlier. And Mantic and others. And there's other tournaments too. There are these mini benches. You'll see FutureSearch showing up there too. So I don't think any one tournament gives decisive evidence, but if you look at them collectively, you can learn quite a lot. Next is this.
Yep. So our friends at Forecasting Research Institute are running a separate benchmarking tournament. I can't describe how the scoring works exactly. The short version, you make 2,000 forecasts in a 24-hour period. They resolve from 7 days out up to 10 years out. And they have a super forecasting benchmark. So if you were to scroll down a little bit, you can see where the super forecasters are. That's the median. And above that are us and Google DeepMind. We just entered a few weeks ago. We'll get more data as questions resolve.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they let you enter so many in this one, but you guys can see this is DeepMind, this is DeepMind, this is DeepMind, this is us, DeepMind, 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 the super forecaster median, and then a bunch of cookie cutter bots. Are you in this one? Too expensive? It was pretty expensive, wasn't it? Yeah. But you'll see Foresight V3, Lightning Rod Labs has been pushing the frontier. Mantic is in here somewhere, like 40th place or something. But again, this is a preliminary. This is, as Tom said, I want to emphasize, just a few weeks old. These live forecasting tournaments take quite a while to get statistical signal, so this is what we have.
Yep. Then we saved the best for last. We started trading Kalshi, just using play money. I posted all the forecasts live on Twitter, along with all of our trades, so it's all totally public. You can see how our Kalshi portfolio has evolved. I tried to be as rigorous as possible, used the order book, was only a taker, didn't do any market making. So and only ran the forecaster once a week, made all the forecasts like right at that time, and didn't do any intermediate trading. So this is really just raw out forecasting the Kalshi community.
Yeah, as you guys know. Actually, how many here trade for real money on Kalshi or Polymarket? Wow, a good chunk, maybe a third or more folks here. Yeah, all of you guys will know there's quite a lot going on in prediction markets other than forecasting. There's many ways of making money that have no forecasting at all. So this is a bit of a synthetic test, even for our real $100,000 portfolio here, which you can see was at $100,000 as of 3 days ago. So this kind of gives you a sense of the lack of statistical significance here. This is using a prediction market to go against the crowd, but not taking advantage of everything you can do. There's no front running. There's no market making. There's no arbitrage, none of that stuff. If somebody is profitable in a prediction market, it doesn't tell you that much about their ability to forecast, but it does tell you something, and we are treating it as a forecasting test. And I guess, Tom, you'll also show a little bit about what that actually looks like. Do you want to go through?
I don't know. Yeah, if you do actual trading on Polymarket, do come and see us. We offer our forecasters to people who are interested in, and there's also free credits that you can use. And yeah, we're just generally excited to talk to people about their trading and their forecasting.
Yeah, thanks, Nikos.
Yep. Did the same thing with play money on Polymarket. Just turned positive this week, which was nice timing. All of these things I treat as, should only update you by a very little bit, but I think cumulatively they tell a convincing story.
I should go down to the trade
I died.
test.
I'm still live. I can keep talking. the yeah. Let's talk about. I would talk about stocks, if you're okay with that. I mean, if we can highlight that if you want, all of the trades are live on our site as of 12 hours ago. There might still be some bugs, but we're going to try to put all the trades and the rationales behind them on our site. If you were to scroll down more, the other experiment that we ran starting...
Well, actually, I'm back. Let me interrupt you there. I just want to say most of our sample size is trading at play money just using Kalshi prices. The trades here now, as of a few days ago, reflect the trades we're making with our real $100,000 portfolio. So if you guys want to do copy trading, these are real bets that we are making. You can follow our real portfolio. It's just it started a few days ago, so there's no real signal from it yet. But these are trades from originally. So you see Polymarket here, this one. This is synthetic. This is us just going against the crowd and just pulling from the API. But the Kalshi ones, as of a few days ago, are real trades for that real portfolio. All right, stocks?
Yep, stocks. Why don't you scroll down one more? So what we did is last August, took every company in the S&P 500 and tried to create a discounted cash flow model for all the companies, extending out to infinity. And what we did is we, through our forecaster at the companies, asking it to forecast, 10-year revenue, 10-year profit margin, 10-year payout ratio. If you have those, you can do some interpolation. You can get a very good DCF value. We know the market caps for all the companies. We can rank order them by which ones are trading at the biggest discount to their fundamental value. That's what we did. We made it all public in August. No one wanted to talk to us about it at all. I tried to talk to lots of people. I showed people the rationales, the forecast. No one gave a crap. Sorry, still scarred. Recently, you can see what stocks it was telling you to buy or sell, not the AI companies. I think it was pretty neutral on NVIDIA. If I were to scroll up, you can, as of like a week or two ago, we were like, hey, what would have happened if we had listened to our stock advice? And well, the answer is you would have made, we calculated a market neutral, sector neutral portfolio, buying the top 10%, shorting the bottom 50%, according to our forecasts. Assume you just bought in August when we made this public, didn't do any trading. What would have happened? Well, you would have earned about 25% with a Sharpe ratio of 3. So if anyone's in finance, that would be considered elite if it was sustainable. I'm not going to make any claims that it's sustainable, but it's yet another data point that AI forecasting is pretty good.
Great, thank you. Okay. So, of course, the trouble with forecasting, as you all know, is that you only get to find out how good you were a while ago. So as Tom was saying, we did some forecasts. We studied this in June and July of last year. We made all the forecasts in early August. We constructed the portfolio, and then we waited. It's been about 9 or 10 months, and now we have these results. So good job. We now learned how good we were in August of last year, back when we were using August of last year models and techniques and all of that stuff. The real question is, how good are we right now? And the best way to answer this is via past casting, not live forecasting. And for that, I will hand it off to Nikos to explain.
So this is our evals page, and we have a bunch of different benchmarks. And the one that I personally find most exciting is Bench to the Future. We're very funny people. Where Bench to the Future is a past casting benchmark. That essentially means it combines forecasting in a way that you can immediately evaluate all of the results. Essentially what we did was, back in January, February, and also then again back in April and the early May, we automatically generated a bunch of forecasting questions. So we built some machinery to generate a large number of forecasting questions, and also some machinery to automatically resolve all of these questions. And we put them all in a database. And let's say, on April 31, we generated 1,000 questions, and we scraped the internet at the time. For every single question, had sort of a broad sweep across different websites, collected all the results, all the websites, and put them in another database. Then we waited until a couple of days ago where a lot of these questions resolved. We resolved them using another agent and put all the resolutions in another database. And now what we have is we have a forecasting question. We have a scraped corpus of the internet that matches the content of whatever forecasting questions we look at, and we have the resolution. So given that a model, like the most frontier models, have training cutoff dates around January, we can ask a frontier model to make a forecast. And in particular, we're not only asking the model to make a forecast, we are actually deploying agents to do web research, to consolidate results, to find whatever information they find, to refine their forecasts, to reconcile conflicting information on the internet, or on our sort of scraped version of the internet. And using only our scraped corpus, we build an entire environment where we can test how good agents are at forecasting at scale on like thousands of questions, and we can run the agents. It takes a couple of minutes to a couple of hours depending on how you run, and you can immediately see all of the results of the forecasts from the perspective of an agent, which from our perspective is a past cast. And we did exactly that, and our most recent version of that eval is Bench to the Future 3. And you can see the results on evals.futuresearch.ai. And one of the interesting things that we found during the last couple of days, in the glorious 3 days that Fable was bestowed upon us, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. But the Lord giveth Fable to us, and we immediately ran Fable on BTF3. And one of the things that I personally found surprising is that Fable is not a much better forecaster than Opus 4.8. So for example, you can just have a look at this leaderboard, and then you have the pairwise comparisons. I'm not able to do all of that at the same time. You have all the pairwise comparisons, and you can hover over it and see significance level. It's basically pairwise comparisons based on the difference in scores. And you can check for all of the models which ones are good and not good. And we've run this on a bunch of different agents. So you have the model and the agent harness. And yeah, I find the result quite interesting and quite exciting. And so you see some progress from Opus 4.6 to Opus 4.8, and then to Fable. But like for example, one of the things that you'll notice is that the difference between Opus 4.8 high effort and extra high effort is much larger than the difference between Opus 4.8 extra high and Claude Fable high. We haven't run Claude Fable extra high yet, both because we still have to raise a bunch of money to do that, and also because we can't at the moment. But yeah, and at the top you see our own FutureSearch proprietary state-of-the-art agent, which does a bunch of clever stuff that goes beyond just deploying an agent harness and asking the model to make a forecast. And you can also see that you can make meaningful progress beyond what the frontier AI models gives you out of the box. So there's sort of some alpha to be gotten in scaffolding, prompting, doing clever things that go beyond just asking a model how to do this. And that also is interesting and is encouraging, and is a sign that we should expect agents out of the box to become much, much better in the future. I will personally expect there still to be a delta between sort of the out of the box, this is what you get, and the best that you can get through a lot of tedious work and experimentation. Probably that gap will shrink in the future, but I'm very sure that sort of the trajectory of AI forecasting has not come to a halt, and we'll see probably some noticeable improvement very soon in the future.
Is there some sort of fog machine malfunction going on back there? Thank you, Nikos. Another thing I'd like to add here, this is something that those of us who worked previously at Metaculus have known, but maybe is not widely known. You need a very large number of forecasting questions to get a statistical signal. We just showed you some Metaculus stuff, some forecast bench stuff, some live trading on dozens to hundreds of questions. But here we are running 1,000 questions, and in BTF2 we ran 1,400, and you just barely get the statistical significance to tell the difference between better and worse models. This is both a fact about mathematically what it takes to show the difference, but also the fact that models have been getting a lot better and they're getting a lot tighter. It didn't used to be hard to point out huge gaping flaws in the models, and now, now they look very scary smart when you read what they're doing and why. So the past casting is the best way to get information on what's going on right now. This is our best information. Apparently, I had to do a hard refresh in order to get the really best information as of 10 minutes ago. But one downside of this is you cannot evaluate humans on this. Humans can't forget, so you can't ask a human from the perspective of May, what would you think about NVIDIA stock or something like that. So you can learn a lot about AI agents. If you guys want to try this, you can run it in our thing, but we can't compare this to humans. So we have kind of a hodgepodge that there is some live evidence against humans that is out of date, and then there's some much more up-to-date evidence that doesn't have humans, and you have to kind of read between them to figure out what's going on. I'm going to spend just a few more minutes giving a few qualitative takes about what is different between AI forecasters and human ones. Now, this is a little bit out of date, and I really would like to see how Fable holds up to this, but we'll have to hold that experiment until they re-release it and when they give it back to us. So this might be a little bit hard to see. These are qualitative descriptions of what the forecasters are emphasizing as run between an Opus 4.6 agent, a Gemini 3.1 Pro, a GPT-5.4 agent, and our best agent at the time that we did this, which was, I believe, in May. So not that long ago, but without Fable and without 4.8. And you can see our forecaster, what we call the FutureSearch state-of-the-art forecaster, has a lot more emphasis on a couple of columns. One is pre-post-mortem. This is the tendency of the forecaster to think about reasons why it might be wrong. If it's going to get a bad score, why is that, and trying to hedge around that. This other one is other perspectives, and this other one is wildcards here. This comes from Tetlock. It's called the Champs No framework. Google it. You can read more about the descriptions there. This was something that was very hard for humans to study because you basically never got statistical significance. There was a study after Tetlock put this out. I think Tetlock put this out in 2016, and in 2017 there was a study where they actually trained people on these methods to see if they would get better, and it was decidedly mixed. I think mostly because of sample size, and also training humans does not reliably lead to those humans to be better at the thing that they were being trained on. So we can't really causally say, like a better model does this, but we can say there's some correlation. Models that do better put certain emphasis on certain epistemic things, and this gives you a sense of what's going on. I linked this here. If you just Google this, evaluating strategic reasoning and forecasting agents, you'll see some descriptions of some acute failure modes we found. The one that is most salient to me is AI systems sometimes are very, very, very smart, but they misread the incentives of people in ways that humans almost never would. There's a couple of examples of forecasting questions where a human would look at what was going on. It would be about, will some politician or some political body do something? And AI will give this very exhaustive, very well-researched thing about how bills like this tend to go and what committee it has to get of, et cetera, and then miss entirely why the legislator or the president or the prime minister is trying to get this bill pushed through in the first place in a way that a human forecaster would immediately see the purpose of this and the incentives at stake. Again, that was Opus 4.6 and various other ensembles. How good is Fable at understanding the incentives and strategic reasonings of people? Well, we should have run it while we had the chance. We'll get it back, we'll run it, and we'll probably publish the results.
You as an American will.
Okay, I now want to spend a few minutes talking about pushing the frontier. Nico's made the case that there is headroom. Just giving a super smart LLM the tools to do the forecast and asking it to forecast is just the baseline. The question is what you can do on top of that. And I think the clearest example that I've ever seen of somebody doing more effort on a forecast was AI 2027. We had the privilege of being part of the forecasting that went into AI 2027 in their timeline forecast. This graph here is the time that we, as the blue bar here, this blue chart graph CDF here, thought that superhuman coding would arrive. For some definition of superhuman coding that I encourage you to go to AI 2027 and see their technical definition because it matters a lot. You can see here that we, as FutureSearch, mostly thought that this would be slower than Eli and Nicola. And various views have updated since 2025 when this came out, about 2027. To be clear, our forecast here was mostly human. It was maybe 85% human forecasters doing human forecasting and then a little bit of tool used to help us research things. Our forecaster was not in the shape to be able to answer hard questions like this at the time. I'd love to give another go at it, but this was a year ago and a lot has changed. But the main thing is that this forecast was worked on by the very best forecasters in the world for months. This was what happens when you take a small number of questions, like when will the superhuman coder arrive, and give people multiple months to work on it. I think the forecast that is on their site is just the best forecast I've ever seen. It might be wrong, but in terms of its research and its modeling and just the way that it tries to check all of its assumptions, I thought it was astoundingly good, and I was happy to contribute to it in a small way. So the real question is, what if you're trying to not just forecast some question in some tournament or trying to make money in one stock or in the stock market? What if you're trying to actually understand the future? What can you do? And for that, I'm going to turn it over to Callum to describe a little bit of our early results of world modeling.
So the premise of this work is usually when you're forecasting questions, you're forecasting each one individually, independently. You're starting again from scratch, looking out to the internet, to your forecasting pipeline. And that starts again from scratch with each new question that you're forecasting. And that leads to some problems. For example, you are reforecasting a question a week later, and no new evidence has come out from the world. In theory, your forecast should stay the same. But due to the way these forecasting pipelines work, there are fluctuations, which ideally shouldn't be there. Or you're forecasting 5 different related questions all about the same topic. In theory, you should have an in-house view of how you think the state of the world is, and every forecast should be based on this internal representation that you have about the world instead of figuring it out from first principles with each new forecast that you make. I was attempting to solve that. So the idea is that you build up this world model. Every time you make a new forecast, it improves our internal representation of the world. When you make new forecasts, it doesn't just do it independently, but it also reconciles the forecast based on the other forecasts that we've made previously. This is a non-trivial thing to do because the world model gets bigger and bigger. Which subset of this do you pick to inform your forecast on the new thing that you care about? We've come up with an implementation for this world model. It's hard to do, say, in the pastcasting sense, because you're scraping questions for our pastcasting environment over the span of, say, 2 weeks. And you need to simulate building up this world model over each day, adding more understanding of the world based on the compute that you throw at forecasting questions as you go along. And you want to avoid data leakage of informing previous forecasts with ones from a version of the internet that you've scraped at a later date. So it all needs to be temporally consistent. But what we found is that it improves Brier scores. Yeah, you can just throw more and more compute at building a higher fidelity world model. And so far, from what I've seen, throwing more compute, making it more internally consistent with our world model, strictly improves performance. So it's just a question of how many previous forecasts have you made, and how much effort do you want to put into making everything globally consistent. Yeah, I think that's everything.
Yeah, thanks, Callum. Yeah, Marshall?
I feel confused about this. Is it true that you're saying that your system could produce better forecasts if it iteratively worked on forecasting 10 questions with like 1 hour of compute each, like 1 hour to the first question, building the world model in the process, now 1 hour to the second question, using the world model, refining it, and so on? Then if it just spent 10 hours on the last question, like I'm confused about what are the inputs and outputs to the world model. The question was.
Yeah, the question was, say you've got 10 questions you want to forecast. You presumably care about the 10th one a lot, and you have 10 hours of compute you want to spend. Do you spend an hour on the first one, an hour on the second one, given the world model you've built from the first question, and sequentially build up your world model so you spread that 10 hours of compute across all of your questions versus spending all of your compute just on that last one?
I can rephrase. What I'm trying to understand is whether making the forecast got you any useful information about your world model, or whether you're describing a way to reuse the compute that you did incidentally in making the forecast to then, feed into a future forecast. Like, oh, you reuse some compute. Sure, I can see why that would be useful. Or is it something about making the forecast that is then helping your world model?
I don't think we actually know the answer to that yet, but I will say that is the central question. And one of the things that we've been after for a long time at FutureSearch is this just pouring more compute into a question. And we studied this with non-forecasting questions too. We would take some question about, what is the, total value of some market, or what is the total number of products in some category, or what we were actually doing this time 2 years ago was trying to figure out what the heck was going on at OpenAI, which I think we did a very good job of. In retrospect, those nowcasts stand well. And the question was just pouring more and more GPT-4 and Claude 2 and Claude 3 tokens into a problem. And back then it was mostly garbage in, garbage out. There was just no way at all to spend more compute to get a better answer to a question, not even a forecasting question, but just a factual question for which there was no clear, decisive answer. We studied this with Deep Research Bench, which is still on our website. We have V2 out, V3, well, shouldn't say anything more about that. And that's probably the cleanest way to answer it. If you just use more tokens, more reasoning, more effort, or just more runs, just do the same thing multiple times and take the average answer or something like that, do you get a better answer? And we have generally struggled to make this work. We would be happy to spend more of our customers' dollars to give them better answers. This is a way that seems to be working for us in the forecasting sense. Whether it is better than strictly, say you've got 1,000 forecasting questions and you want one really good answer, should you run 1,000 more effort on just the one, or should you use these 1,000? I don't think we know the answer to that yet. But fundamentally, it's kind of human in its way of working. Having knowledge about ancillary topics should help you on the topic you have in question. We did have a small result from our paper in January about using sub-questions in forecasting to get a better Brier score as well, which is maybe more apropos to your question. I think the point is we don't know. This is ongoing research, but it's very significant when you get to the point where marginal more tokens on an answer does help you. If there's any way to do that at all, information is very valuable and tokens are still cheap, even by the millions, and that's potentially extremely valuable for humanity to be able to unlock.
Yeah, I would also add that to a large extent, it's a bit of a scaffolding question. I think philosophically, you should end up in a very similar world, whether you spend like that amount of compute on a single question, or you do something like sub-questions, or the thing that Callum did. But it's just not clear how you can like 10x the amount of compute on a single question. Like how would you do that? Getting an agent to work for like 500 turns is not something that's very easy. And the way that we approach it is just an easy and straightforward way to do it, which may not be optimal, which may be optimal in the sense that you can cache results, which is what we did and which we think is worth doing. But at the end, it's a bit of a scaffolding question.
Yeah, I want to emphasize AI 2027 again, because this is ultimately what we're after. We want better answers to questions like this. And so I think the main question is, what can you do right now? With humans, with AI, with techniques like world modeling, or just asking many thousands of questions, or running the same question over and over, or doing agents with a budget of 500, or getting proprietary access to Fable and using that instead. All things considered, what can we do to get the best information about the future? That's what we're after. We have these results to share in these techniques, but this is far from an answered question in almost any way, shape, or form whatsoever. And that brings me to the what is this all for? So we have this quote from Scott, which I put in an Asterisk magazine article. He said, there are now strong, minimally regulated, high-volume prediction markets on important global events. In this column, I previously claimed this would revolutionize society. Has it? And then there was a graphic, and it said, I don't feel revolutionized. Why not? And I thought about this a lot, too, because I also thought that strong, minimally regulated, high-volume prediction markets on important global events would be a world-changing rationality and epistemic intervention, and I don't feel much better either now, despite the fact that we clearly live in that world. And I did a little bit more digging onto this too to see just how much useful stuff was actually going on Kalshi and Polymarket. This data only goes up to February, but I don't think the pattern has generally changed. We went from almost no meaningful trading volume on questions that actually matter to quite a lot. But it hasn't been growing, and it hasn't been particularly useful, and we're not really seeming to move in a direction where that will be useful, although there are some particular targeted interventions that I'm excited about. But that's prediction markets. Prediction markets are a platform. They're an ecosystem. There's a two-sided market, buyers and sellers of information. You need countless armies of humans to get them to work. The obvious question is, what can you do with AI that you can't do with the prediction market? And one of the things you can do with it is you can answer conditional questions. In theory, you can do this on prediction markets, and again, prediction markets could do a lot of work for us, but all we know for sure is that it takes many dozens of humans, each spending hours researching something in order to get a good signal out of it. And once AI forecasting gets better, you can ask anything, you can ask private questions, you can ask questions at scale, and you should expect it to get better over time. So what I would like to know right now is, if the White House unbans Claude Fable this week, what will the impact of this be on AI timelines, and what are the chances of another AI pause were that to happen? Again, this is a question you could submit in the Polymarket Discord and hope people would trade on. I think humans would get very confused. There's some causality problems. If we get to the point where AI can give a good answer to this question, then I think we will finally realize the dream of forecasting that came back all the way to Tetlock and the Good Judgment Project in the early Metaculus days. And I will leave it with that. I guess the last thing I want to say is that our state-of-the-art forecaster is live and available. If you go to futuresearch.ai, click the button, you can just type in the question I had on the previous slide or any question you want immediately right now. You can also ask Claude to turn on FutureSearch forecasting in Claude on the web. It will put it in Claude AI, or you can have it in Claude Code too. If you want to do a lot of things of which forecasting is only one part, just tell Claude that there's this good forecaster that it can call. It will do all the rest of the stuff, and when it comes time to forecast, it will use our forecaster, and you might find it valuable. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much. Time check for mods. Do we have time for questions?
We have 5 minutes. Is one of the working microphones good for audience questions? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll go over here. Hey, really cool. Thanks for the talk. I was wondering, do you guys think that there's a limit to how much better you can improve forecasting with scaffolding, at which point you want to turn to some sort of fine-tuning or training? Or do you guys think you think the right strategy is to continue investing in scaffolding and agents on top of just closed source models?
I don't have a good answer.
My sense, you can hear me, right? My sense is that currently there's still some alpha and improvement in scaffolding, in ensembling, in thinking about post-processing how you combine forecasts, how you combine and sort of schedule the work and orchestrate the work of different agents. I think the problem with fine-tuning and reinforcement learning is that, at least for us, the gap between the best available proprietary model and the best available open source model that you could do fine-tuning on is so big that my sense is it's probably not the best use of money and time, and it's also like not future-proof. Like, you'd have to do this all over again. There may be steps, like for example, a final judgment step or a sort of recalibration step where you might want to do fine-tuning, but so far we haven't done like much fine-tuning, or it hasn't been sort of an essential part of our strategy. And yeah, I would expect there to be gains from scaffolding probably up until the point where the model itself is better at orchestrating itself than humans. But that is probably something that I would think broadly would apply to all domains at the same time, more or less. So I don't know. I think within the next year or two, you probably can do some scaffolding, I would assume.
Other questions? Oh, yeah.
Have you guys found that there's diminishing returns to context? Like, is there like a level of like web search and a level of context beyond which like the forecasts that you guys get are sort of level off or potentially even get worse? Can you like confuse language model by giving it too much stuff? Curious about context and yeah.
I'll answer that with a small anecdote, because our real answer to that is giving away too much of the game. One of our research scientists was sitting right there, Raphael, ran a small experiment about using a lot more context in a place where it wasn't obvious it would help, and it helped a lot. So I think one thing that is clear is that handling large context has gotten dramatically better. The fact that we're doing these 1 million context limits on these proprietary models, it's a significant change. We've been doing this for a while now. We started in August 2023, before even there was GPT-4 Turbo, and people talked about context engineering, and like so much of our work, honestly, was just trying to get the right things in the right context at the right stages. That seems to matter less now. It still matters, but it matters less, and it might continue to matter less. I'm not sure. Jeff Dean at one point said they're going to try to do a 1 trillion token context window. I don't even know what he meant by that, but he's Jeff Dean, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Time for one more? Pre-scene, guys?
Oh, yeah.
That was a great talk. Thank you. One thing that I've been thinking a little bit about lately was, when superhuman chess first came out, it was like chess plus human AI plus human outperformed just AI, and it's interesting that they used your AI system in the AI 2027 effort. And I guess, have you guys experimented with, Tom, maybe you using your forecasting with the actual agent, and in what areas the AI complements you, and in what areas you kind of improve on the AI?
Maybe I'll just say I've read lots of its rationales and tried to coach it, and it's gotten to the point where like 90% of the time I'm not going to change its forecast. So it's really just around the edges. But I don't have any super great insights as to where it makes consistent mistakes. Sometimes it misses a piece of information. Sometimes it misjudges someone's incentives, maybe. But yeah, I'm pretty confident I could improve it, but not by much. Yeah.
Yeah, and as you guys know, the main problem is simply it's hard to validate. So we could try a human plus AI centaur thing, put it in some Metaculus tournament, and then we'd find out 3 months later whether that version of it 3 months ago was any good, and we simply cannot passcast this at all. So I think it's fairly likely that we will just not answer this question, and we will enter the regime where the centaur is no better than the AI unassisted. We might be there now, we might be close, it might happen tomorrow, and we probably won't know when it's happened.
That's all the time we have. Do you guys want to comment on where you'll be available to talk with more interested people?
Yes, we have a banner, but there is no table and chairs next to the banner. So come stand near the banner. It's near the front walkway from the picnic tables out into the big building there, and come chat with us. Thank you very much.
you.